Oh, I guess you can't like the colors. Anyways, um, whoops. I guess I shouldn't have did that. Flip the screen that way. Oh well. I'm gonna shut that off. I don't know what to do about this now. I'm kind of at a loss. How do I flip the screen around? No. No way to flip it back around. Oh well. Ah, I got an idea. Well, the only reason why I wanted to fucking see the screen was in case somebody had like a comment or something. But I know you're not here for my good looks, so I guess it doesn't matter. You can look at the keyboard and, and remote control. So, oh, where's my coffee? Oh, yes. I made some coffee for the show. I sat back. I unwound by watching some of that Britannia TV show. Yeah, that's a pretty good TV series, actually. I kind of like it. I mean, it's fiction. It's very, very loosely based. But I really enjoyed watching it. And I don't know, is it 6 or 7? Yeah, these two Romans, they get into this. They say, "Oh, I think I found a witch doctor's stash." Like a druid's apothecary, and it looks like he grabs this big old nug off of a shelf. I guess they must have ate some mushrooms or something too, because they puked and they were talking about the universe and gods. One thing I noticed is the gods everywhere are different, but they're the same. Yeah. So I was sitting there, like going, oh my God, I could really make a big cultural appropriation, personal appropriation, fucking hereditary appropriation, racial appropriation. Think about this. Because this show is basically about my family. and, and it's part of what's been a big headache for me at times. Um, and that's why I totally understand what Dave's talking about, Dave Acton, why it bothers him so much what's going on with his brother. But so yeah, I was watching or listening to Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan yesterday, and one of the shows he's sitting there talking about how it seems like intellectuals are being attacked. Authority that comes from clear thinking, power that is real power, uh, real intellect, real wisdom is being attacked. People that display it that aren't doing it to further a political cause are attacked. Unfortunately, a lot of it's coming from the left, which really surprises me. Um, I grew up around a lot of hippies. Good portion of my childhood was in San Francisco. Man, I rolled my first joint between 46th and 47th Avenue. Had pinecone fights in Golden Gate Park. Little boys, like 11 years old, we went to the ice skating rink down in the avenues to pick up on girls. A fucking good percentage of my junior high school was Cambodian, so don't talk to me about immigrants. Those Cambodians had a really rough time. They didn't have a rough time as far as how they were treated here. It was where they came from that was the fucked up place. They got treated well when they came to America, by the way. Other than a few assholes, you know. They would call them, you know, whatever. Oh, I ate the wrong combination of foods again. Now my stomach's bloating. The coffee will bring it down. So yeah, you know, Tracy Twyman, Nicholas DeVere von Drakenborg. For those of you that are not familiar with those names, don't worry about it because I wasn't familiar with those names either until having to look at my family stuff. I came across their names associated with research or talking shit and a whole bunch of other crap. Yeah, I didn't appreciate being associated with, you know, like, oh, they're a satanic family. But somehow Nicholas DeVere von Drakenborg and Tracy Twyman knew that my bloodline was the Canty royal bloodline. You know the Canty in that TV show Britannia? Yeah, Canty is short for Cantilavunai. I'm sitting here watching this show. I'm like 4 episodes in, and then it fucking dawns on me. Wait a second, is Canty short for Cantilavunai? Oh, okay. Can't I be can't I be me? Can't I? I don't know. Can you? I don't know that I even got a giggle out of that because it's like wow, shorten it down to Canty. You can come up with a lot of good jokes about that one. I thought we were the Woodafakawi tribe. Can't I? I don't know. Can you? Well, let's try. But anyways, you know, in my younger years, I looked into Native Americans to help rebirth or find again what I felt my people had lost. Now, by my people, I don't know exactly what I meant in my younger years by my people. I guess you could say like, Caucasian. I don't know, but that was just what my mindset was because I felt that you know, like my dad's side being here since before the Constitution, and you know, like, you know, a few other things. How far away from our own cultures have we gotten, and how distorted have our spiritual practices gotten? How damaged, how infiltrated, how whatever. And I felt that the Native Americans were the least separated. That's just what I saw. That's what I saw as my path at the time. That's what I saw the reason was at the time, and all that. It's a little difficult to explain. And the whole time, my Native American teacher would always tell everybody, once you're done learning the ways of my people, then it's time for you to go learn the ways of your people. Okay. So, should I learn them from a TV show? Yeah, here's the funny thing is I can see some of the stuff that's contained within it that actually does kind of jive, but a lot of it is fiction and fantasy. An artistic interpretation of what somebody thinks may have been happening or whatever in an exaggerated artistic form, right? Or should I take my stepmother's word for it, who was a druid priestess? Huh. Yeah, my stepmother was actually a druid. It was funny. It was funny because she said she was a druidic. She was druid, but she was also Christian. She was a druid that believed in Christ. Huh. So there it is, 1985. How is it that my stepmother was a druidic Christian, a druidic priestess Christian? I know it's really fucking complicated to say, huh? Because it kind of makes you go, huh? Does that exist? Well, if we're to look at history, the historical evidence, yeah, it's highly likely because in the TV show, that time period, the one that goes up against Rome's name is actually Caractacus, and one could say he is part Roman, just like the Queen of the Canti is part Roman from her grandmother or something like that. Yet, for me and Caractacus, the Roman part goes to pre-Roman in Alba Longa and Lavinium, going back to Prince Aeneas, who became the second Latin king. And then we became the Latin kings. So that's so anyways. Separating fiction from fact and separating all of it from conspiracy theory world can be kind of, I don't know, it's really not that difficult. It's just frustrating because I don't know if people are getting what I'm laying down. It's easier to do it in front of people with, anyways. So people want to know, people ask every now and then, well, why'd they do to you what they did to you? It's like, well, could be because I'm not conforming to their fan fiction. Could be because some had hoped that it was completely non-Christian and that they could claim my stuff as some anti-Christian alternative to what the fuck ever. I don't know. And it's like, well, for one, Christianity was different then. So, I don't know. Everybody's stupid as far as I'm concerned. You gonna tell a gorilla what he should and shouldn't eat? It's kind of like that kind of stupidity. but it's to be expected because it's like everybody is so used to pointing fingers at Christians and saying that they're doing this and they're doing that, when actually it doesn't matter whether it's a Christian or not. People do stupid shit regarding race and culture and religion and all that other shit all the time. They appropriate somebody else's stuff. They control somebody else's culture and belief systems and everything else like that in order to undermine it, replace it, to control the people. Oh, fucking, oh God, I shouldn't be talking about this right now. Oh, hey. Oh, sorry, you didn't see that, did you? My bad. See, there's. God, I don't even want to say how funny this is, but it's funny. I'll just say it like that. Fuck, I need more coffee. I shouldn't have ate that fucking second sandwich. So yeah, what happens is when things are culturally appropriated or taken from the rightful bloodline, usurped, it will grow stagnant and entropy will start to set in. There won't be any more spring. The water won't flow anymore. It'll just be stagnant. I mean, fuck. Maybe I'm trying to over explain it. Maybe I'm trying to find some more dramatic verbiage. Would dramatic verbiage do it? I mean, isn't that what sells? People don't want the real doom and gloom. People want fictional doom and gloom because people know that fictional doom and gloom is not going to come true and it's easier to listen to. So make sure you tell the person that's telling the truth to shut up because it's giving you a headache because something inside you knows that they might be speaking the truth. A bit difficult to listen to a truth that it isn't based on a set of ideological dogmatic terms created by some committee of people that have distanced themselves from the portions of the populace that have to struggle and at times commit crimes to feed themselves or get high. Right? Hey, getting high is like going on vacation. And if the stress of your life in one day voices. I heard voices out there. If the stress in your life in one day, let's say you live below the poverty limit, right? So one day, for you, the stress in one day is the equivalent to some middle class person's stress 10 days, let's say. In 10 days, the middle class person goes through as much stress as the one below poverty goes through in one day, trying to survive. How many times does a person with little money get burned? How many times does a person with just a little bit of money have to pay extra fees? They can't get that good deal because they don't have the credit card. Um, or the person that's taking advantage of them knows that they don't have a lawyer. They can't just file some paperwork for a civil suit right out of their back pocket. You know, there's all these little factors that contribute to the entropy in our society today. I don't even know if you could call it entropy. I mean, it's more like a disease. But you see, there it is. It's the difference between entropy and a disease. Is a disease can be cured. You can recover from a disease, right? You can find out the source of the disease and preventative measures. Maybe it's just a case of garbage in, garbage out. And that's a simple enough solution, ain't it? Simple problem, simple solution. If it's garbage in, garbage out, maybe we need to start putting something more than garbage in. So what happened with Jerry Brown and all these prisoners? Do you guys want to hear the take that I've heard on the end of people that, well, they really don't like the cops, let's put it that way. But they also know what Jerry Brown did, releasing all these prisoners, was pretty stupid. Because I guess they released a lot of violent prisoners in California. So they released a lot of violent prisoners as they're pointing their finger at me. Really? How more obvious can it get? And I guess the crime rate went up. I don't know. I don't know the statistics. I haven't looked at the statistics. But, it is concerning. Now, doesn't it concern people to know that, I mean, just on the surface, Governor Jerry Brown, how did he get elected? I mean, after you bankrupt a state, you shouldn't be allowed to be in charge of that state ever again, right? Excuse me. And there it is. Most people make a deal. Most people are easily shut down and controlled. Most people can't keep their word, but they expect you to keep yours. people misusing authority, people testing people that are not qualified to test certain people. I mean, you're not going to have a fucking junior high school student teacher assistant correcting your fucking PhD paper, are you? I mean, seriously, you're not going to have a fucking kindergartner administering you a test when you're getting your fucking doctorate or some shit, are you? So just there, it's like try to point out, that's the part that pisses me off is trying to point out that disconnect. Like, hey guys, if it's that easy for me to see and know, well, that's what pisses me off. How many other people just fucking see your little fucking test and they play along? Fuck, really? And it might work for the general populace and whatever, but to do what they did to me based on their faulty tests after I told them, hey guys, 10 years prior, for one, doesn't matter how you paint it, your test is fucked now. It's contaminated. You know, that, and after everything that had occurred, life has been more than enough of a test as far as what makes me angry, and is my anger within social norms. Well, how long did it take for me to get kicked after being targeted? Oh, 13 years. Oh, and I'm pretty sure I documented most of that on YouTube, by the way. And on David Icke's site and a few other places. So for the past 13 years, people saw the gradual uptick in certain areas, and the refinement of certain information, and steering it away from more of the fantasy land related stuff and more to keeping it to the facts and the basics and the evidence and the records and all that. But, well, after time it wears you down, right? And then enter in the booze. Yeah. Which I didn't hide, right? So people saw the worst right online. Imagine what their worst is that they've hidden very well. That they've made it a life fucking job to hide that part of themselves while they point the finger at people. I didn't do it to you. I didn't cause you to lose your job or any of that. See, my problem is I've always been too lenient, too polite, too eager to understand rather than be understood. I mean, if somebody tells me they're a Satanist, yeah, I'd like to know why they call themselves a Satanist. I'm not going to start sitting there talking to them about how they need to be saved and all that and what a sinner they are. They probably already heard it fucking 500,000 times. But I would rather know why they chose to follow that path. Like, what was it that, you know, was it a selling point? Was it an abusive priest? Was it the hypocrisy in the church that you saw? So how's that cult of personality that you're part of doing? Yeah, I guess it's the latest fad and craze, huh? See, from my point of view, spirituality and stuff like that isn't a fad. And I think that's the area that offends me the most at times. I don't know why I get offended, but it offends me. You know, people that claim to be Satanists, there's only a few reasons why they do that. And it is what it is. And they might be alright people or whatever, but I really don't like being around them too much because of the level of ego involved. The hypervigilance concerning what respect is and is not. Yeah, and there it is. When people demand respect, it's like, well, based on what set of values, which culture are we going by? One culture, it's respectful to burp at the dinner table. It's a point of gratitude or something. You know, it's how you show that you enjoyed the meal is by burping at the dinner table. Or in another place, that's considered rude and disrespectful. So one place it's respectful to burp, another place it's disrespectful to burp. So when people are sitting there demanding to be, and it's saying it's all about respect, well, yes and no. I think it's about the respect that comes through the understanding as well as presenting something for somebody else to understand. See, there it is. Everybody wants to be understood. Oh, you want to be understood as a white woman that wants to be a black man. Okay. Right? Imagine a white woman that wants to be a black man wanting to be understood by a black man while shutting down and refusing to understand the black man's point of view. In a nutshell, that's where I'm at most of the time with a lot of this. Is I'm sitting there like the black man, having to listen to some white woman wanting to be a black man and demanding that I understand why she is a black man. Yet she doesn't want to take 1 minute out of her precious day to have any understanding for what I got to say or what my problems are or what I have to deal with. So, okie dokie. You know, it's pretty bad when people say they're from one tribe and then they find out that I'm familiar with that tribe. So then all of a sudden they're Cherokee. Hey, you just went from that to that. I'm like, do you know, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm glad I'm not Cherokee. That'd drive me nuts hearing people talking about how they're Cherokee all the time if I was Cherokee and knew I was Cherokee. So, yeah, I get that. I know how that feels. But you see, other people wouldn't even pick up on that or even notice that that could be a problem unless they've experienced it. So obviously, if I can talk about it, bring it up, I must have experienced it on some level. But when somebody that hasn't experienced it claims by some racial association or some shit like that to understand or whatever, it's like, come on, shut the fuck up. Really? You Uncle Tom motherfucker, go somewhere else. I'm just keeping it real. It's just pretty sad, the level of pecking order, hierarchical bullying going on. The look at me, the look at who I am or where I come from, and look at my racial this or my sexual that. But it's only listened to if there's a political payoff. So if you don't tie any of your stuff to politics, you know what they say? Big deal. What does it matter? Okay, well, when those wild animals start paying you visits, things start happening, and yeah. Mountain lions are pretty scary. You're going to sit there and play Indian, even if you are Indian. You're going to sit there and you're going to go through the same fucking stagnant water. You're going to serve out the same stagnant water. And then you're going to sit there and tell people it's their fault that they're sick. Well, were they sick before they started going to your lodge? Oh, so they got into recovery. Right in recovery, they started going to your lodge. So we really don't know whether it was your lodge or their recovery just sucks ass. Maybe they need to find somebody else to pour those sweats for them. Oh, you see, that's where we run into the other problem I have with some locals concerning cultural and traditional and ceremonial and personal and racial and all that other stuff, appropriation. Because, you know, spiritual teachers hand down spiritual teachings, right? And sometimes it's handed down outside of a line. It's handed to another bloodline that is basically equivalent or can carry that. It gets transferred back at some point. You want me to explain all this to you? I might know more than any fucking druid you've ever met. And that's what kind of bothers me about a lot of this is when I do just allow myself to start talking about some of this deep stuff, it's just simple to me. It is what it is. But I don't argue with people that are atheists or they don't believe in past lives or incarnations or reincarnations or energies or the quantum reflections of things or the quantum markers and things. If people don't want to believe in us, it's like that's like asking me not to believe in that stuff. I understand that, well, they have never been beyond where they're at now. Just like I have never been beyond where I'm at, going in the direction that they're at. Do you understand? I have never not believed in God. I've always had faith in God. I've always known God existed since I was crawling on my belly. That's just the way it is. Now, whether you want to call it a Christian God or whatever, I really don't care. That's how important all that is. But I don't want to go into all that because I don't fit the stereotype of somebody like that, do I? The way I talk, the way I sound. Well, I did just smoke a pretty good joint. I did have to rebuild I had to tear apart part of my carburetor again, and change some O-rings, and adjust a few things. So now my carburetor starts right up without needing a bunch of starter fluid. So I looked at the idle adjustment screw. I'm like, oh my God, that's all the way. It was adjusted all the way. Dang. No wonder it didn't pass smog. And then it started pouring gas. It literally was a big stream of gas. There was more gas wasted with us trying to fix it last night than it took me to drive from Ukiah to Lake Mendocino. So I'm getting even better gas mileage now. I just want to get parked somewhere soon so I can get to work on this thing. So I can tighten it down. Because, there's stuff that rattles loose. I got to change my gray water tank. I need to get a new gray water tank. And those things aren't cheap. So I'm going to have to install it myself. I should be able to do that. At some point, I'd like to make some kind of skid plates for the wheel wells to guard the gray water tanks and some of the plumbing in case there's ever another blowout. Because that's what caused the hole in my gray water tank was having a blowout. The tire tread slapped into the tank and put a hole in it. So, the way I look at it is the spirits, the energy, whatever, saying, oh, you need to move out of the area. You need to move on. It's like, well, it'd be a lot easier if the people weren't overcharging me or getting it, well, we need you to do this first. I should have been on my way a month ago. So yeah, maybe after I get it all dialed in and new spark plugs, maybe it'll pass smog. Because if the idle was set all the way, yeah, that would increase the emissions. So now when I turn the key, you could hardly hear it. It just purrs. So, a lot of people don't realize that there is kind of a spirit that deals with mechanical things. Or why else would fucking Mercury in retrograde cause shit to fucking happen? Just bothers me that my fucking carburetor started leaking again right after I had the smog test done. So, racial and spiritual and cultural and personal appropriation, I've seen it happen. I've experienced it happening. And I've seen it got worse. People thought I was crazy when I was saying, hey, what's up with this? I know I'm not supposed to look for fucking any attaboys. I'm not supposed to stamp my name onto certain things. But he just went over there and took what me and so were talking about, and he just said it was his vision. Did this whole little dramatic blah blah, and now he's going to go out there and do this dramatic blah blah at a certain ceremony that you're really not supposed to do kind of dramatic blah blahs. And he's supposed to be 20 years older than me, huh? Wow. Back then, when he was my age now, he looked a lot older than me. So, I guess I could sit here and say proof is in the pudding, right? Like, hey, you know what? A lot of these guys back in the day, well, they were about the age I am now, and we'll just go, you know, just judge us by our outsides. Sometimes it actually does reflect the inside. I'm not talking about aesthetic. I'm talking more about like youthfulness or some shit like that. Dark things tend to weigh the soul down and cause it drooping. Right? Gravity seems to have more of an effect on those weighted down by sinful natures, if you want to put it that way. See, you could talk about these things using many different religious references and not even be really talking about it in any Christian or Buddhist or any other form. And that's what I'm trying to point out. People should be taking from each one of the continents, but you should not be taking it to take on that other culture. maybe that other people have a term or way of describing something that has been difficult for you and or your people to describe or explain, or maybe it was a question you had and you can incorporate it without any conflict with your traditional ways or your cultural ways. That's how it works. The way it does not work is how Rome has done it, or the communists. Right? Oh, here, we're going to replace all your deities, your spirits, and your wood nymphs with this saint and this angel and that angel. Then we're going to give you a list of rules. They're going to be basically the same rules you already have. But because it's going to be in our language, we get to interpret those rules as we see fit based on our political viewpoint. And if yours jives with ours, then you'll do all right. But if it doesn't, we might reinterpret some of the rules so it'll best suit our political stance. So now, each one of your families has to give one child to the local mission. They will be raised and cared for and put into service of the church. And in doing so, you will gain assistance and help and blessings from the church, and your family will come to no harm. But if you refuse to give one of your children to the service of the church, then we will come and take all your children, and then the rest of your family will starve homeless. That was the deal they made down in South America with the natives down there. Did you know that Father Guido Sarducci was one of the last of those types of children? Yeah. You all thought he was just a comedian, huh? No, he was raised to serve the church. Technically, they would call that like slavery. Raised in servitude, raised and trained to serve the church. Isn't that a form of servitude or slavery? But I guess being a slave to a church might be different than a cotton field, right? Less whips. You just can't speak your mind. You got to follow the doctrine that you're given. As long as you do that, you'll be all right. And if you know how to relax your sphincter muscles, man, you'll be a rock star. Bad joke. So, yeah, it's one of those little known facts that totally escape people. But yeah, there's an interesting documentary on Father Guido Sarducci's life. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But it explained a lot. And you might also understand why he was able to be the comedian he was while also literally being a padre. He was literally a full-blown priest. That and comedy were his whole life. So because he was the last one of those like that is probably why they gave him as much leeway as they did. So my phone just said low power, so I guess I could plug it in. Fire up the generator. Yeah, it's a mess in here. So as you can see, that little area there, of course, yes, I do know what that means, and yes, that's why it's like that. Oh, hold on. There. So, it's coming along. But like I said, I gotta get landed somewhere, docked, however you put it. What do you call it with these things? Fuck. Need to buy an ashtray that's not gonna slide around. So, hopefully they will let me move soon. Oh, cool, I could do that, huh? So anyways, I just think it's strange the place that they deemed okay. I mean, there are so many places to park that to park here just seems kind of weird. So, I was 12 minutes late getting out of that park today. I'm such a horrible person. I mean, that's how bad the gas leak was. Is there was no way to drive it, cause yeah. They didn't say anything last night, but they said something this morning, and then they insisted. And then they go, oh, well, and you can't work on a vehicle in a state park or a national park or whatever. And I'm like, well, this is more of an emergency than me working on it. I mean, just the fire hazard of how much gas it was pumping out. I mean, she would have probably allowed me to get in it and drive it, spewing all that gas just to satiate her need to tell a man what to do because she's on some kind of power kick. Like, wow, okay, yes, ma'am. Ooh, you got power here. Well, I guess you're gonna have to stay here with all your fucking power and glory. Yeah, that's the sad part to it all, too, you know? People that do this kind of stuff, you know, they need to find places that they can do it in. And then they have to stay there. Because quite often at some point, the general populace gets hip to the games and they just get tired of it. I don't know how to explain that. You know, it's it's ideologies that get in the way. It's the ideology that decides who gets favored over who. It's the political nature of it, right? Local politics like you or do they dislike you? Or have the local politics been told to lie about you? And if so, by who? And what political value would you play? Especially if you're nonpartisan. Right? I mean, is that. You see, that goes against what everybody says, anyways. You're dragging people into politics. You're causing people to make personal decision, you know, like who can be their friend and who can't based on politics. I'm sorry, it's just fucking ridiculous. I'm at a loss for words. I really am. So, with that, I figured I'd check in. Just, you know, say, hey, yeah, you know, I can get on that whole bandwagon. I mean, look, there's a whole TV show. I mean, I don't know if I'll watch that or if I'll watch.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by Narcissistic Entitlement of Mark. And here's the story. So, I received this email a couple days ago from Mark, and it doesn't say whether it's with or without contribution. It doesn't say if you're looking for a sponsor or not. It's a fairly long letter. I don't read these things cold. I'm sorry. I don't pre-read these things. I read them cold. So you have an.
Anyways, maybe I'll sit down and watch some Ollie Matthews tonight. Good thing is I don't really have to black this thing out if I have the lights running or the generator running. But with that gray water tank out, yeah, that's really fucked. But I get, I can use a bucket and dump the water into the toilet. So, I need to just get some rest. It'd be nice to rest for a couple days. Somewhere where there's shade, because there's shade and there's not a bunch of shady dealings going on. And not a bunch of drinking and stuff. Yeah, you know how hard it is to not be around drinking? Like, holy crap. Well, that's what I gotta do. I gotta stay away from, people that are drinking and stuff. So maybe it's a good thing I'm not out at the campground. Because people go out there, they camp, and they drink, right? So. But other than all that, stuff's coming together. Stressful as hell. My beard's growing out. But this TV show, Britannia's, really got me kind of like thinking about a few things. Like I said, I know it's historical fiction, historical fantasy fiction, but I know how to differentiate the two, and because of my background with the Native American stuff, then my stepmother, yeah, huh. It's just all kind of weird. It's a lot of there's way too many synchronicities and coincidences to just set aside and never take a look at. So with that, sign off. Tomorrow I should be a little bit more rested and a little bit more chipper, but after I got the carburetor back together and it wasn't leaking, I turned the key, it started right up. It's like, sweet. So, something's working right that wasn't working right when I bought it. Because it was a bitch to start. So, God bless, or whatever bless that you want to be blessed by. We're gonna have to come up with some. See that I think is more important than coming up with all these different names for different sexualities. I think we need to come up with a all-encompassing word for God or Vishnu, or Great Spirit, Buddha, or whatever, right? Like, if you just wanted to say that, the mastermind of the universe, I don't know. Fuck. To me, that's more important than trying to figure out what to call myself as far as my sexuality goes. But see, there it is. As sexuality is not my cause. I mean, it has been a concern, just because friends that weren't accepted or whatever because of their sexuality or the struggles some people went through. But yeah, that, and they got plenty of people championing their cause. So with that, y'all have a great evening. Stuff will get better, but God, a lot of California seems to be burning down. So I'm going to try to get caught up on the news too in the next day or two. And yeah, I suggest you guys check out some of the Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson stuff. Like Joe Rogan Experience number 1070. Yeah,
Start companies. Conservatives run them. And the problem with the conservatives is, well, they can only run a company in one direction because they're conservative. They don't think outside the box. But so if the company is working and the product line is good and everything is stable, like hire some conservatives because they'll maximize efficiency and they'll move down that track. But if the track is no longer going in a good direction because something's changed, the environment's changed, well, then you got to bring in the creative people. And so we need each other. And the only way that we can survive
and that's why I suggest listening to Jordan Peterson, because he'll put a lot of the stuff that I touch base on in some really simple and really definitive terms and perspectives. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, pretty, how do I put it, pretty on the ball. Not many people are as far along the line as he is. To be honest with you, it's been a long time waiting for me to hear somebody speaking the same stuff I've been talking about in a very educated way and being heard. And that does kind of bother me because now you have to have the degree, the diploma, the audience. And if you happen to be targeted for a good part of your life and kept from a formal education for whatever reasons, kept in the background, some might say to protect me, whatever, but and something, you see these things, and you're talking about these things, you're telling people these things. But then it really doesn't really, I mean, it starts hitting the airwaves before Jordan Peterson. But then when Jordan Peterson gets up there and starts talking about the same stuff, yeah, get ready. There's going to be a paradigm shift. Going to be a big change. And it's not going to be just because of Jordan Peterson or just because of me. I mean, there have been people saying probably the same thing I've been saying for a while. And you see, you know, I don't know who started saying what first, and does it matter? I mean, you probably see traces of it and stuff I wrote online. I mean, easily going back to 2008. And if you really were good and could track all my stuff online, you could probably find stuff going back to 2002 or something. But, so that tells me that what I thought about what I was looking at might have been accurate because it lines up with what he sees. So that kind of helps me with how I feel about myself, I guess. Helps me realize that I am sane. Oh, I think sometimes I wonder, you know, yeah. What's my major disconnect? Why do I have such a difficult time developing personal relationships? Is it because of the situation I'm in? Is it my personality? Is it because of all the emotional traumas I went through? To where? I don't know. It doesn't matter. No. I'm obviously not going to stop doing what I do. Whatever the fuck that is. I think how I do certain things will change, though. I definitely have to change this carpet. It's got to go. But anyways, alright. Good night. Catch y'all later. I'll do another show tomorrow night. I'm just a little worn out tonight. Alright,